Relocating to Canada is super exciting. Finally, your visa has been approved after so many stress. But here's where most of us get it wrong. We plan for everything but the financial aspect. You know the list of food stuff you plan to bring, but you don't know how much you need to come in with as a newcomer, nor how the financial system work. Which is why in today's episode, I'll be sharing the financial checklist, what you should be doing before you arrive, and things you will need to do upon your arrival in Canada. So grab your notepad because by the end of this video, you have a clear action plan of what to do to help you settle in smarter and avoid making costly financial mistakes. Hi, my name is Buchi and welcome to the Newcomers series where I'll be breaking down the key things you need to know financially as a newcomer in Canada. A quick background story. I came into Canada about a year ago as a permanent resident, and one thing that has really helped me settle in is the preparation before I arrived, but most importantly, the information that I had access to in my first 1 year. All thanks to friends, families, and well-wishers that really supported me in my first 1 year. Because the truth is, settling in Canada takes a village, and most of the reason why most people are struggling and thinking about jackpot dying is because of the financial aspect, and that's exactly why I am launching this series to share my experience, to share the lessons, to share the mistakes I've made, and also the things that I did right, so that it can also guide you and really help you settle in well. Now, a few disclaimer, nobody's journey is exactly the same. But the more we share this information, the more we help the next person really settle in and thrive in this country. Because we're not here to survive. We've not left our home country to come here to just survive. We're in this country to thrive. And that's exactly why I am sharing these key aspects of settling in as a newcomer. The first thing you need to know is that Canada is a cashless society. And what this means is businesses and services are rendered via card payment. You walk into a store and even with all the cash, they will reject it because they only accept card payment. So as a newcomer, you want to be prepared and come with at least a card that works for international transactions that you can use in your first few days before you open a bank account in Canada. It will interest you to know that an average Canadian have less than 20 Canadian dollars in their wallet. Most people go months and months without even touching the currency. So while coming to Canada, prepare to come with like a card that works, and also do not change your dollars into Canadian dollars because you might not really have need for so much money. You can come with about 100 to 200 Canadian dollars for your immediate needs, but don't change all your money because when you are here, what works is typically card for most transactions. And it's also important that I state this: do not change your money at the airport. Most of the exchange counters at the airport have ridiculous rates and your money will lose its value. The best bet is if you come in with significant cash, when you open your bank account, you pay it into like a USD account once you open one. Or if you have your money in your domiciliary account in Nigeria, keep it there, take the little one you need for immediate needs, and when you finally open your account in Canada, you can transfer the money via Swift. So it's a cashless policy. You don't need to come in with so many cash as a newcomer. Now, when it comes to banking, it's not the time for you to wing it. The best thing you can already start doing is start researching on the various banks in Canada and the newcomer packages that they offer. Now, we have the big five: RBC, Scotiabank, CBIC, BMO, and TD Bank. These are the traditional banks in Canada, and they all have newcomer packages that you can already start researching and comparing to know the one that gives the most value. Now, beyond the sign-on bonuses and the initial gifts, do not just choose a bank that will cost you so much money later in future, or go for a bank that your friends are using just because they are using the bank. Always do your research, and for most of this bank, you can already book like a virtual call with the advisors before you even come into Canada. So it's actually a good decision for you to start researching for the bank. because that's one of the first things you need to do once you arrive Canada. The key things to look out for while deciding what bank to settle for is an offering that waives monthly fees, at least for your first year or first 2 years as a newcomer. Yes, in Canada, we get to pay money for the banks to keep our funds, which is very funny. But there are also digital banks where you don't have to pay some of these fees, like Tangerine, EQ Bank, World Simple. So just do your research while you're waiting to arrive in the country. It will save you some coins. Another thing to look out for is an account that do not require minimum balance, meaning that you can have zero balance in that account with no penalty. And also look out for a newcomer package that will waive at least bank charges on your initial deposits. If you're coming in with like your proof of funds, you want to also ask the question that, oh, if I want to deposit my initial amount, would the banking fees be waived? These are some of the things you need to put in the conversation when you're speaking to the advisors. So choose the right bank and start doing your research early to help you avoid making costly mistakes. Now let's talk about numbers, the part that most people do not fancy. How much do you need to come to Canada with? Here's a realistic breakdown for a single person. For rent, you'll need your first and your last month rent, and in some cases they'll ask you for special deposits for additional months. This usually is between $3,000 to $5,000 depending on the city. A good place for you to search is rentals.ca and Facebook Marketplace for the type of home you want to get in your desired city. The next bit is grocery. Budget between $300 to $500. For phone plan, $50 to $70, but in this case always ask for the newcomers package because it's usually a cheaper plan. And transportation, you can budget $150 to $300 depending on the distance of your home to the basic place for your key activities like work and all. And finally, miscellaneous, $300 to $500. Bringing it all together, you will need at least between $5,000 to $7,500 for your first 2 months in Canada. Now, I know it sounds like a lot, but having this money is what really sets a lot of people apart for making a desperate decision when they arrive. You'll be forced to take survival jobs out of desperation to meet up with the bills payments if you do not have this money. So while you are planning all the beautiful dresses and all the food stores, ensure that you are saving something that will help you survive for the first few months in Canada when you arrive. The next thing you want to do is start applying for jobs even before you arrive. Update your resume to the Canadian style. Get a Canada number using Fongo app or Numero app. You can put this number on your resume and recruiters will reach you, and you can already start getting familiar with how interview works in Canada. Now, this will help increase your chances of landing a job before you arrive, because the sweetest thing is to even get a job before you arrive. That will ease the financial pressure. So while you are waiting, already start applying for job. I'll share a quick story with you. In my own case, I started applying for jobs like 2 to 3 months before we arrived, and I got like 4 interviews while I was still in Nigeria from the number I had from Fongo app. So you don't want to wait until you're in Canada before you start actively applying for a job. Now, even though I did not land a job while I was still in Nigeria, I got a job about a few weeks into being in Canada because I started early. So do not just relax. Start applying for those jobs so that you come in and by God's grace, you already even land a job before arriving. And that also ease up the financial pressure when you are here. Other strategic things you can do to help you land a job is join LinkedIn groups, go online and search for different families of your current title. So for instance, I'm an accountant, but in Canada, you can have accountants, payable specialists, receivable specialists. So start doing those research so that you are familiar with how it works. Another key thing to not sleep on is contract jobs. Now, contract jobs are a teen year. Because the Canadian experience really counts, the chances that you get recruited for contract roles are much more higher than full-time roles. Do not limit yourself on contracts, but apply for both contracts and full-time while you are waiting to land in Canada. The final thing you want to do is gather all your documents. Ensure that your educational documents are properly assessed by WES, and just gather your driver's license, your driver's abstract. This will help you take the G test if you're coming to Ontario. And even with the right driver's license, you can get a car and start doing Uber to survive. Also learn like a handy skills. Few months to come in, learn how to braid. Fun fact, I do cornrows for fun, for friends, and I get paid. But if I have to do it for survival, then I am going to do it. So learn a handy skill, plumbing, barbing. Just learn a skills that would help you survive when you land as a new immigrant in Canada. Now let's do a quick recap of all the things you need to do before you arrive in Canada. First, start doing your research and understand how the Canada financial system works. Get a card that will sustain you for the first few days before you open your bank account. Research on the various bank and their newcomer offers so that you can compare and make the right decision. Save up your emergency fund at least for your first 2 months. Update your resume, get a Canada number, and apply for those jobs. Gather all the important documents from your educational documents to your driver's license, and learn a handy skill that will generate income for you when you arrive in Canada. Now here's the truth. Doing this homework puts you 80% ahead of most newcomers and helps you settle in smarter and faster. So if you found this video helpful, do well to give it a thumbs up, subscribe, turn on post notification, and share with other newcomers. Also, let me know in the comment section if there's a specific area you would like me to cover in the course of this series. In the next part of this episode, I'll be talking about the things you do when you arrive in Canada and in your first few weeks. So do well to not miss it. See you in the next video.